As a CPA, I come in contact with entrepreneurs all the time. And we have discussions, and they always ask me, so what businesses do you own? And I always tell them that my passion is real estate. And they always ask me, so how are you liking that? Or not liking that? I'm Curtis Mulberg, and that's what we'll cover in this episode of An American Entrepreneur. So as I mentioned, I come in contact with entrepreneurs all the time. It's just part of my profession. And here recently, I had lunch with a guy, a potential client, and he just inherited a large sum of money. So he came to the office, picked me up, and took me to lunch, and we were having a conversation, and he had mentioned that he'd really like to try his hand at entrepreneurship. He wasn't interested in investing his money in mutual funds or a stock market. He really wanted to be an entrepreneur. And he asked me numerous questions about a number of industries. Let's say his name's Joe. I said, Joe, there are a lot of cool businesses out there, but in my opinion, there's not a business in the world better than real estate. And I told him that I had a number of properties, I have a portfolio, and he asked me, so how's that going for you? And he started talking about how he knows people that have real estate, and it's the same thing we hear all the time. People start talking about the negative aspects of it, such as tenants bailing on you, leaving your place really trashed out, and getting the calls at night, and they always use the stopped up toilet phone call. And I told Joe, I said, Joe, it's really about the mindset. I said, sure, I don't like it when somebody calls me. And let me tell you something. When someone calls me, it's always the worst time. I'm not kidding you. I mean, it's whenever I'm about to grill steaks, and right when I lay the steaks on the grill and it's going shh, my phone goes off. Or I'm heading out with my wife to go have dinner or meet some friends out. It's never when you're just sitting around the house relaxing with nothing to do. And I told Joe, I can get mad about it, but it's part of it's just part of the journey. It's part of the landlording. And I told him that the mindset that I have is this. And I don't really like talking money, but let me just say, to keep the numbers simple. I said, Joe, let's pretend every month, after all of my expenses, my income is $5,000. And let's say I spent 1 hour on my rental properties for that month. And let me tell you something, that's pretty common actually, because I do have months where no one calls. So when I spend that 1 hour, and it's usually at home just doing the accounting. So when you do the math on that, that's $5,000 and 1 hour's worth of work, okay? So that's $5,000 an hour. How can anyone complain about that? Sure, I don't like changing out a toilet. I don't like plunging a toilet. I don't like replacing a toilet, replacing a garbage disposal. I had a girl call recently and the bathtub was clogged up. And it's not really, I'm not responsible for people's hair buildup, but this tenant is an amazing tenant. She has never been late, and she's been with me now, probably I'm going to say going on 3 years. So, I just went over there with my shop vac and sucked all the hair out of the drain and was out of there in about 15 minutes. So there's nothing that's free. It's just about the mindset. And if you're going to let it bother you, if you're going to let a phone call bother you, then don't get into it. Every night when I go to bed, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, because I have had text messages going off at 2 or 3 in the morning because someone locked themselves out of their apartment. And I don't do that. And I tell them that when I first sign the lease with them. I tell them that, keep an extra set somewhere. If I have to come out, I'll come out in the morning or reasonable hours, but that's not an emergency. So as I was describing this to them, he was really intrigued and interested in it more. And I told him, I'll go shopping with you and look for some properties, but right now the prices are too high as far as I'm concerned. But if you have the right mindset, then it's definitely for you. So in my years of landlording, I knew that there would be ups and downs. but you have to know that you've got to be ready to accept the down times along with the up times. You're going to have all kinds of problems you cannot imagine. But again, when I look at the math, if I make $5,000, I spent 1 hour. And on a bad month, I'll spend about 5 hours. So you do the math on that, that's $1,000 an hour. So sure, I don't mind getting toilet water on my shoes and my pants. I don't mind changing out garbage disposals. If I have to replace a refrigerator or whatever, I don't like that. That's kind of an expensive item, but those things are going to happen. So you have to accept the bad with the good. And like I said, people always will use that clogged up toilet example. And I always tell them that I'm happy to change out a toilet. If you've ever thought about getting into landlording, don't listen to all the people that make excuses of why it's a bad deal. All right. And also, too, just one last note. I have a friend that's got a portfolio of rental properties, and he's got them all spread out over the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And, that's his prerogative. But all my properties are really close to where I live. So that really saves an awful lot of time and headache on my part. I hope this video added value. If so, please hit the like and subscribe button. I'm Curtis Mulberg, and I'll see you again soon on another episode of An American Entrepreneur.